What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Real Down. I'm your host, Jimmy Skinner. With me, as always, Mr. Garrett Johnson in
What's
his
going on?
ugly blue Kentucky room, man. I just can't. I
You're gonna have
can't
to get
do it.
used to it now.
I
They're
know it.
actually getting decent at football, so I'm just gonna start rubbing it in people's faces until they get bad again. I only get like once a century to get hyped about this, so
I, I used to know how that felt. And I started to think that's what was happening. Alabama was having a, not that I've been watching lately because I just don't get into football anymore, but Alabama was struggling, which I kind of appreciate. That's kind of why I stopped watching college football because my team was too good. Like, I don't mean that like big
yeah.
headed. I'm not like a
Still are
crazy
one of our
Alabama fan.
coaches, and then you guys created dynasties after that.
I
Oh,
mean,
Bear Bryant.
whatever works. I mean, well, that's what Nick Saban's done with the rest of the SEC now. All of the coaches that are kicking ass are all prior assistant coaches or head offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators from
Yeah.
our school. I mean, Steve Sarkisian sucked in the NFL, came to us, now he's kicking ass. I mean, I don't know. I like it. I
Yeah.
can't stand when a team's just like on top of the world. Like, the only team I
Well,
think I've ever been okay about that was like the Bulls in the 90s because I'm that old.
I like to see the champs fall, so I'm hoping Kentucky can get it done this weekend against Georgia. I don't think it's gonna happen, but
Auburn held it close.
they almost did it.
Yeah. I didn't watch
And
that, but everybody was
South
freaking out.
Carolina almost did it, but I mean, they played one half at least and almost did it.
Interesting season, I think. But
Yeah.
it's about to come to a screeching halt for me because hockey is here. So, which you want to talk about some stuff not going good? That's the Predators preseason, and
Oh yeah, it's
it's
terrible.
bad. It's like the only team they beats themselves at the little Clarksville
Well, I
Arena.
don't put too much stock in preseason though.
No, no. And
And
and it's kind of
uh,
like baseball. There's so many games that are yeah, like it shit changes. Like they don't
in
ever suck
reality,
all the
most of the
time.
Preds teams that have been good don't really get figured out till like December. So
Yeah.
I don't really start panicking until after that point.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to doing some fishing. I think we're gonna try and go fishing this weekend.
Yeah.
Be nice. First time I've
Uh,
fished since I think the first week of July.
be the first time I've like fun fished in probably 2 months or so. Every other time it's only been able to make time for a tournament here and there, and when I do it, I do terrible. As we'll see here in a little bit, but
Yeah, I didn't have I don't even know. I think I only did 3 tournaments, 3 or 4 this year, and I was like middle of the pack in I think all of them at best. But I don't know. We've talked about it. I just kind of don't get I'm starting to just not give a shit about me in tournament fishing. Like
yeah,
I want to get back to just having some fun.
I think that's
Not
where it starts, and then you'll start catching the bug again and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go test my skills
I'm
again
sure
in
it's
some
a vicious
tournaments."
cycle.
Yeah.
Something I've been doing that's been helping that is getting back into other hobbies, which I've got to find a cheap hobby, man, like
They
reading or
don't
something.
exist,
They
not
don't.
with guys at least.
No.
Every hobby's got an extreme you can take it to, and
Yeah. We got back into guns and shooting. That's expensive. Um,
oh yeah.
disc golf. Disc golf's relatively cheap. You don't have to have a lot to play disc golf. But I haven't been able to play because I broke my wrist. So I tried doing some putting in the front yard the other day, and that still hurts like a bitch. So I can't do that yet.
Mm.
I'm curious to see how fishing goes this weekend.
Well,
There may be
get
a
you out
whole lot
there
of me
with like a
using my
drop
wrong thing.
shot or something, and
Go get
let
me
you
an
just
electric
drag that
fence.
around and not do anything.
No, nope. I don't think I want to do that. I'll just
Uh,
wear my wrist out. We'll see what happens.
Got to
I
start
think I'll be
giving it
good if I
some
don't.
consider
I
it physical
know.
therapy. Well, that's what
Yeah,
we'll.
yeah. But talking about tournament seasons, a lot of the seasons are coming to the end. We just had I think that was the final Hobie event, wasn't it? Before the
Before the
TOC.
TOC, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And
there's a Bassmaster on the Susquehanna or Susky this weekend.
yep. I really,
Uh,
really wanted to make that event, but I
yeah,
don't think my wife would appreciate me being across the country this close
a
to her
month
having
out.
a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
That's probably
we
not
have a
going to happen.
doctor's yeah, no, it's not. We have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and I'm putting, like, a side bet on there, like, "Yeah, you're not gonna make it till November." So, it'll be interesting. But, we got a lot of championships going on. Alabama's championship's coming up in October, and the show we got for you today is the Kast Tennessee State Championship on oh, damn it, I had it.
Tim's Ford.
Tim's Ford. I always wanna say Watts Bar, just like, if it's not Chick, my mind goes straight to Watts Bar. I
It's
don't know why.
actually not on the Tennessee River, which the last 4 years it's been on the Tennessee River chain, so
Nice,
it
nice.
was kind of refreshing to not fish the Tennessee River for a change.
So give us a real quick, Garrett. Give us a rundown of what Kast is.
So Cast is essentially a body of 11 clubs around the state. We'll consider these grassroots clubs. A lot of them have pretty good attendance, like between 20 to 50 to 60 per event. And that's each club usually draws that. Um, and so there's 11 of them. And then throughout the year, they collect their AOI points, and there's a qualification to fish the state championship. So each club gets to send 10 anglers to the state championship. And it's really an individual event, but there's kind of like a
Whose club's
side
better?
pot, yeah, clubs against each other, where they're fishing for a paddle that gets passed down every year. It's kind of like the AOI type paddle, I guess. It's got
It's a bragging
engravings of every
rights
club.
paddle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bragging rights, pretty much it. Uh, but every club kind of takes it seriously because it's just cool to have that for a year.
Heck yeah.
Uh, and it's kind of been passed around quite a bit. It's not really been like totally dominated by a single club. Um, there's a lot of very talented anglers across the state, and every year it seems like they keep getting better, uh, and more new guys that are better and better. So it's evolving,
That's
but
why that's why me and Garrett are talking about getting out of tournaments. It's because we suck. That's why.
yeah, we suck.
Yeah, we're old news.
I've gotten beat so bad the last couple tournaments. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I want to tournament fish right now.
Yeah, I went and looked at the results from this one after you told me you fished it, and I was like, oh, okay,
Oh yeah,
I get you.
it was bad.
Yeah.
I had a
Well,
bad time on the water, but it was a great time. Like overall, I mean, I broke a rod and my batteries kept dying on me. They died twice in the middle of the event. Um, I got all the way to a long, like made a long run to a spot, and there was two guys already there. Then bass boats on top of me on top of that, which is typical for me. Uh, and what else happened? Oh, I got hung up in a tree and then shook a bunch of pollen all over me and like started breaking out in hives and stuff in the middle of the tournament.
you're gonna have to learn that when all of these signs are telling you to just go home, just do it. Like,
Oh yeah, and my very first fish broke it off in a tree like on the hook set. So I watched it eat my buzz bait and set the hook and it snapped my line. I was like, what the hell, dude? So,
well, we've got a couple of guys here that did not have a terrible weekend at this event.
yeah,
So
they absolutely smashed them.
let's bring these two guys on. We got Luke Graham and the Fluke Fairy. I love that name.
He earned
Yeah,
that name this weekend.
you can thank Jared for that.
The Fluke Fairy.
I'll let him divulge as much information about that as he wants to, but he ended up buying a bunch of fluke packs for the club and was handing them out, and so I
That's
called
awesome.
him the Fluke Fairy after that.
That's pretty cool. Well, boys, welcome to the show. We'll give you all a chance to introduce yourselves, actually. So, for anybody that doesn't know y'all and our listeners all over the country and the world, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Either one of y'all can start.
Go ahead, Fluke Fairy. You got it.
I'm Tyler Phillips. I'm from Sparta, Tennessee, and I fish with CTKA. This is my first year in a kayak, and I made the state team, which I
And
was.
you almost won our AOI this year. I think you were.
I did 2 points away.
Yeah, 2 points. So that's pretty impressive. But
Yeah.
Keep going, man. You've been fishing for a while, so it's not like you didn't know what you were
Oh
doing.
yeah. I mean, do you want to hear about the tournament, how the tournament went, or?
No, tell me more about yourself. Like, how did you get into this
Oh,
tournament fishing, and like, how long have you been fishing in general?
I've been fishing for probably since I was 5, 6 years old out of a bass boat.
Yeah,
And I got some real close friends in CTKA, and they're more like family. That just kept pestering me about getting a kayak and getting into this, and I was like, "Y'all are crazy," and finally broke down and bought a Hobie last year, and it was history after that. I loved it.
Whoops.
the
Just kidding.
live. Hey,
I couldn't find my cursor and I clicked it, and of course it's sitting hidden in that freaking picture that just popped up on the screen. Sorry about that.
well, since you bought that Hobie, you've been kicking our tails every time, every other event. It seems like, yeah, take.
Yeah,
And he also earned what was it? First out of the money. Like, we give a gift card away in our club for first out of the money,
I
and
won all those.
yeah, he won like every single one. And the owner of the shop that's for Harpeth River Outfitters, and he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, is this right? Did he actually win all of these?" And I was like, "Yeah, he he won like every single one somehow."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, "Are you sure this isn't a scam or something?" I was like, "No, that's him. That's for real."
That's awesome. Well, Luke, what about you?
Yeah, man. My name is Luke Graham. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I grew up in Nashville. I fished this year and last year with Tin Cat here locally in the Knoxville area. It's a pretty good sized group, and we fish like every lake within an hour, I would say, which is why I gravitated towards that group, is because they don't just hit like one or two lakes across their schedule. They actually hit a large variety of lakes. I mean, like I said, everything within an hour and a half or 2 hours. And we even stretch it out to like Dale Hollow and some other places. But
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Knoxville, like there's like 10
oh
lakes.
yeah. No, that's not like
Like,
a minimal statement. Like you've
yeah,
got Loudon and Tellico like in town in Mountain Hill. Then you've got Watts Bar, Chickamauga, Norris, Cherokee, Douglas. I
yeah.
mean, there's a lot relatively close by. So we get a good variety on the schedule. But yeah, I've been bass fishing for like, I don't know, 2.5 years maybe. I grew up doing a lot of like fly fishing and saltwater inshore fishing. My older brother and I fished a lot. You said Harpeth River Outfitters. I remember
Yeah.
we belonged to this like swim club growing up that backed up to the Harpeth River. So my brother and I spent like every afternoon waiting in the Harpeth River in the summers. So
I'm
it
sure it
was
was a
very.
lot different then than it is now.
What'd you say?
I'm sure it was a lot different then than it is now. There's
Oh
a
yeah, I have no idea. I haven't been there
yeah.
in forever. I just remember waiting around and like we did the whole 9 yards, like fishing, setting up crawdad traps and stuff. So I've been fishing for a long time,
Awesome.
but I just, I didn't get back into bass fishing really until a couple years ago, and somebody took me out on a boat, and we had a good afternoon, and then I was like, you know what, I really should give that a shot again. I'd been fly fishing a lot, and so I went bought a rod because I had like no conventional tackle at home, and then I went like once, I think, and I was like, I can't do this from the bank though, like that's gonna kill me. So I started looking up kayaks, and I didn't even know at the time that it was a thing. Like I didn't know there were fishing kayaks. I didn't know that there were tournament trails, like any of that. And then I just very quickly fell down the rabbit hole. So
Oh yeah, it's easy to do, especially if
yeah.
you get in there with the right crowd, like Tin Cat. You'll
Yeah.
fall
So
down that rabbit hole fast.
yeah, for sure. So I bought a paddle kayak, and I think that first year I I fished on like Loudon with them just to see,
Yeah,
because I immediately was like, I think I might like tournaments. And then last year I did a majority of the events in the state tournament and stuff, but I was still paddling. I was forcing myself to do a full year in a paddle. I don't know why. Like that's like
just to prove a
it's like a
point. Yeah,
masochist tendency or something. But I was like, no, I just was going to do a full season in a paddle kayak to
yeah.
make sure I liked it. And then at the end of the year, I bought a Hobie and, motor and the whole 9 yards. And so this season has been very different for me.
Oh yeah, I mean you had a pretty good season, I think, didn't you? Like I remember you won the Tennessee Bass Nation on Chickamauga earlier this year.
Yeah. I won Tennessee Bass Nation on Chick. I won on Douglas for Tennessee Bass Nation.
Yeah,
Um, I had a good national championship for Bassmaster. Um, won a bunch of local events. So yeah, it's been a good year.
hammer.
Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome. It's a little side talk here. It's crazy that I've been doing the podcast thing for like 2 or 3 years and talking about you forcing yourself to do the paddle kayak thing before getting into kind of diving all in, pedal, motor, all that stuff. It is kind of crazy that my argument used to be that like none of that mattered. Like you can do it either way, but I'm telling you, it's starting to be where you kind of have to now. I never thought you don't have to. There's obviously still guys that do it, more quote unquote conventional, just paddle only, no electronics. It's still possible, but it is crazy to see like how far the tournaments have come and all the tech and stuff like now. And like having a conversation with guys now, I actually had like, I've noticed that I'm having to say it like, you could, but you probably should spend the money. Like maybe not as far as live scope, but just in general, like it's getting, because it's not that the tech is getting tougher or anything like that. It's just there's so many good people, and if you take a very talented angler and they're already going to be using that stuff, I mean, you're already in a disadvantage. Like it has gotten crazy that it's done that so fast.
I think you're right. Like I think you can definitely you can definitely do it in a paddle kayak, and I mean I had a lot of good finishes the last year too, but it's like when you start weighing it out, it's like, okay, what kind of pushed you over the edge? I think a lot of it though has to do with how much time you spend on the lake. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because like last year, I had never fished any of those lakes, minus Loudon and like Melton Hill, which is next to my house. And so this year, I had been on all of those lakes at least once. You know what I mean? And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest differentiator. But you're right that like the pedals, the motors, the whatever it is, it does make a difference.
Well, and it all kind of rolls together because, like we always say, there's no replacement for like experience, time on the water.
Yeah.
Well, okay, when you maximize your time on the water with pedals or a motor, or
Right,
instead
yeah,
of
for sure.
motoring around mindlessly, motoring around with an ice graph, like you're doing what we're telling you. You're just giving yourself more efficient time. So
For sure.
it's definitely just getting that way. Which maybe it's bad for kayak fishing in the sense of like new people coming in, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know how many people I've seen that like come in blind and spend 10 grand. Like,
yeah, there's a lot
I know
of
it's
guys
not
that
for everybody, but
coming
there's a
in.
lot of them that do it. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, but you also don't have to do that. I mean, at this point, like I think locally, we've got a couple bare bones trails. So like, if you want to go fish a trail that doesn't allow any of that, it's available to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To at least get your feet wet.
that's like down here in Alabama, like this North Alabama club that I'm in. Like, we have all the nice stuff. Like, there's no rules against it, and we still get our ass handed to us by the creek guys and the pedal boats. Like,
I was going to say too, I think it also very much depends on what type of event it is.
Yeah, type of event and region for sure. It's like,
Yeah, those guys can still destroy you on certain
for sure.
river events and like shallow water.
Yeah, like once you get into river events, it barely matters.
I mean, that's basically what most of our events come down to. It's like no one is going to beat a river rat fishing Main Lake on Wheeler. It's not going to happen. I don't care if you're.
I have something to say.
I don't care if you're Kevin Van Dam. Like,
he's got a big 360. He's hauling over rocks and with the motor guide on the front.
He's just a real man.
Yeah, we like as a club, like in advisory, like trying to figure out the tournament schedule, like we have conversations about because it's basically all TVA, like conversations about like, do you allow the river sections that belong to some of those lakes, like Loudon, for example? Do you let people fish on the Holston and the French Broad? because
or the little pigeon and all
like
that
you
stuff.
can go fish on Loudon against those guys, but you're gonna lose every single time. I mean, it's not even remotely the same body of water.
Yeah.
And so I do think sometimes it's hard to weigh, when you're setting up the tournament, it's like, where do you cut it off?
Oh man, I'm running into that right now. Our state championship's on Lake Weiss, which is Coosa River Lake, and it is terrible fishing right now. And a lot of the guys were trying to move the event away and worried about it. But you work with the Chamber of Commerce, you don't want to like pull the plug on it. So we all talked about it, and they were like, "Well, let's open the boundaries up." So we opened the boundaries up into Georgia, just following the feeder rivers because there's also a 150 boat ABT going out on Lake Weiss that day. So we're like, well, we'll give everybody an option to do whatever they want. You can fish the fast creeks, the slow rivers, the big lake. And of course, like everybody's got something to complain about. Like too much water, favoring the creek guys.
You can't make everybody happy.
You can't. I've done just to like, I just don't care. Like,
at some point you just gotta say it is what it is. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, I take notes just
take it or leave it.
People's complaints in mind for the next year, but it's like for every one complaint, there's one person that has the opposite opinion, so you end up 50-50 no matter what you do. So the way I play it is 1 year I'm going to piss these people off, and the next year I'm going to piss these people off, and then that's just everybody's pissed at the end of it. So fuck it, like you know what I'm saying? Like, but enough of that, man. But let's get into this. So one of you boys, tell me about this lake. As much as you know about it, and Garrett, you can fill in any info if you know any that maybe they miss on, because I know nothing about this lake other than driving past it.
Yeah. Well, you guys actually did well on this lake, so let me hear how you would describe this lake.
Tyler, have you fished at Tim's Ford more than once?
One time, I fished the Tennessee Hammer event, and it sucked for me.
Okay. So I mean, I'll go first and just give you a description, I guess. So Tim's Ford is I would describe it as like your kind of stereotypical Highland reservoir.
Sure.
It's not a giant lake, but it does have a lot of variation to it. So you've got you've got main channels kind of running through it, northwest to southeast. There's like 3 big ones, and then there's just tons of coves and creek arms and branches off of it. But it's got like pretty good water clarity, assuming that it's not blown out. Like if you get close to the dam, it's going to be pretty clear water. It's not like for people in East Tennessee, it's not like Norris clear, but it's I think some people would describe it as clear water. And then the one thing that I said about it, seeing it this weekend, but also so just a little background, like I've been going to Tim's Ford for like 2 decades, not to fish. My parents own a house on the lake. They have for like 16 years. We used to go down with friends all the time. That's the lake that I like learned to water ski on, tubed on for the first time, rode a jet ski, like all those lake activities that you do, hanging out with family. I did all of that at Tim's Ford for years.
Even like half of the state on this side of the
What'd you say?
Said you and like half of the state on this side of the state did that.
Right. So I was trying to explain to somebody, because they're like, why are there so many docks here? And I was like, well, so people that live in Nashville, right? If you live in Nashville, your only lakes are like Old Hickory and what's the Percy?
Yeah.
And like Center Hill's nice, but you can't build a house on it. You know what I mean? Like you can't get a dock on it, basically. So people buy down on Tim's Ford and they build these homes, and there's a bunch of docks and stuff. That's the other thing. There's like 1 billion docks on that lake. But the main thing that I said about it is like when you look at the lake, like everything looks good. And I think that makes it a little bit challenging to approach, because like you go out there in a cove or on a point or even main lake, and it's just like there's so much stuff if you were just looking around that you'd be like, I want to fish all of this. But the reality is that there isn't fish on everything. But yeah, that's kind of the lay of the lake, though. Tyler, would you agree with that?
I would agree. It's a lot like Center Hill. It's got gravel. It's got chunk rock. It's got bluffs. You've got a few more kind of offshore, hunt looking stuff, kind of like Del Holla mixed in with it. But there is also
it's not as steep and
it's not as steep.
There's a good mix of smallmouth and largemouth. Like it's a pretty good split. And honestly, they're everywhere. Like I was
Yeah.
fishing somewhere this weekend where I didn't expect to catch a smallmouth, and I caught a big smallmouth. I thought like I was out of smallmouth water, and they're still there. So
That's
yeah.
cool.
I was in smallmouth water and I only saw largemouth. So I was like, I only saw them though. I never
Everybody
Man.
says that about Dale Hollow. They're like, I came here for smallmouth, and all I'm catching is largemouth.
Dude, that's me. I've
They're there.
never figured it out on Del
Oh,
Hollow.
they're definitely there.
They're there.
I
I
know.
promise.
Everybody I know catches really great fish out of there, and I just find giant, large, or not giant, but I find good largemouth there. That's all I can do. I don't understand it.
Go when it's dark.
Yeah.
I've heard dark and like January, and like
Yes.
I think it was Kazmierski
Spring.
told me like
Yeah.
go when it's. He was like, go when it's super uncomfortable to be on the water, and you'll have a great smallmouth trip.
Like cold, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Damiki
Not raining,
rigs.
snowing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was telling somebody that's when I want to fish Tim's Fort. I feel like that's the type of lake that fishes good when it's like 20 degrees out.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
We've got some of that around here. Like my favorite months to fish are January and February. Like ice cold.
I try to like enjoy the cold weather. Like I'd enjoy the cold weather. It's just I guess a lot of the lakes around here just don't seem to set up well for it. They're definitely lakes that thrive.
Definitely in Alabama now.
Yeah, it's honestly like Florida fisheries. They thrive in that like first warm spring snap. The early spring is like when our lakes are like I would say the best. I'm sure there's some guys that would argue with that, but like hearing about guys going out and doing these winter trips in Lake Del Hollow and these other lakes like that, you don't hear a lot of that from any of the lakes down here really. Like it's very a seasonal fishery. It's like when winter hits, guys go deer hunting. Like they're like, no, the fishing sucks in this stage.
I'm off the water. Screw it.
Yeah. Well, let's hear about, since y'all both you've got a lot of experience on the lake, but not as much fishing experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, this is the first time I fished it. I mean,
That's crazy.
apart from like casting off my parents' dock and like paddling around their dock one time and making a couple of casts, I've never fished the lake. Yeah.
That's insane. And then Tyler's only fished it one other time. So tell me about how y'all approach your like preparation and pre-fishing for all of this. Like how, like Luke, for you know a lot of the area of the lake because you've spent time on the lake, but none of it relates to fishing. So did you use any of like just your knowledge of things you had seen before, maybe remembered for random reasons, been like, that's probably a good thing to go check out? And then
I wasn't going to. So I went to the tournament expecting to. So like for me, I'm a smallmouth guy. I'm a deeper water and or river person. So I like current, I like moving water, or I would rather fish deeper for smallmouth. Like if it's on a lake where they're mixed, I'm going to go try and catch smallmouth just about every time because I feel like if I can get on smallmouth, I can win. Largemouth, But like, so I went to Tim's Ford planning to go fish for smallmouth. And, so I was just looking at the map again, having not ever been there to fish. I was like, I'm going to go to the dam. Like, that's where I'm going to go practice because the topography makes the most sense down there in terms of it's steeper, it's deeper water.
Yep.
I mean, there's deep water a lot of places on that lake, but I just went to the dam because that's just one of those places that you can kind of guarantee there's going to be fish. And man, I spent the entire day that I did practice, Thursday or whatever that was, I spent it down there and I didn't go anywhere else. And it did not look good. Like I was seeing fish like feeding on bait balls, like suspended over 80 feet, but those aren't catchable fish in my opinion, especially from a kayak. And then like I saw
really know what you're doing with maybe live scope and you can.
Yeah, but even then it's like I threw at some fish even in the tournament, like once I was kind of like messing around just trying to find additional fish, like I threw A-rigs, spinner baits, like moving things, and I would watch those fish follow the bait and they just turn away, even though they're feeding on bait. So I don't think that, like, I think it's very hard this time of year when they start really feeding on the actual bait to trick them with things that resemble bait fish, to be honest with you, because there's just so much of it. That's not to say people won't catch stuff on it. Like I thought like a small bladed spinner bait, I thought that would be like the deal. and it was not at all, at least where I was. So
Yeah, I tried it. It didn't work
yeah,
out.
yeah, for sure. So like I was down there at the dam. I didn't see a lot of fish on bottom. I didn't see a lot of fish on points, and I was like, this is just, I don't know. Like, I don't like it. And so I just decided not to go back there. I decided, out of a combination of laziness, but also just like a level of familiarity, at least with that portion of the lake, I decided to put it in a ramp like 30 seconds from my parents' house. So that's where I ended up putting in. So yeah, like to an extent, I was kind of like, let's go with what's familiar, but at the same time, I'd never fished it. So
Okay. What about you, Tyler? How'd you approach it?
I'm more of a shallow water angler, like by heart. I grew up fishing Gunnersville, so I go up in creeks and stuff like that.
Pause for a
And
second, because we tried to get him to fish that native no limit event on Gunnersville, and he didn't do it. He fished something else, and he went out there the next weekend, and we had a no limit monthly going on, and put up like 80 or 60 to 80 more inches in that day than the native event had. So
yeah,
he would have
I
smashed
put up
it.
like 300 just for the monthly, over 15 inches on that first day.
Yeah,
I
we
put
had a
up
15-inch
85
minimum,
inches.
not 14-inch minimum.
Yeah, and the second day, the actual day of the tournament at Gunnersville for Bass Nation, I think I caught like 320 inches, and everything was over 15 inches, and that's not. I had probably close to 400 inches with all the 14s. I was just smoking them.
I have literally never done that anywhere. Period.
Dude,
Like, I
it
hear
was-
these guys talk about catching fish like this in one day. I can't do that with live bait. I don't understand. Like 5 fish a day, 10 fish a day, 15 maybe. But like that, no. Like, and even if days I've caught 12, 15, they're not all good. There's 5
Right.
decent ones, maybe one good one, and the rest of them are rats. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand how some of you guys do
like
this.
25 to 30 over a pound and a half.
Yeah, it was
Dude,
for
be
2
in
hours
love with
sitting
it.
in that ditch. The ditch I was fishing in that creek. I was fishing the upper end of Gunnersville. For 2 hours that morning, I was throwing a fluke, and it was every single cast. You could throw the fluke out there,
That's
twitch
why
it
he's
about
the Fluke
twice,
Fairy.
and the water would explode, and it was a 2-pound fish, just 16s and 17s, one after another.
I'm telling you, you're not the only. There's like probably 3 or 4 Tennessee boys that are just deadly with the fluke, dude. Like,
Yeah,
but you said you grew up fishing Gunnersville, and that's one thing I know about Gunnersville. It's like, if you show up to Gunnersville without a fluke, you're wrong. I don't care what time of year it is. Like,
yeah.
come to
There's some
G, no
other.
fluke.
Yeah, there's some other topwater worms and stuff that I use down there too that like catches some giant fish, but I won't go into detail on that because
We'll save
that's
that for
kind of
afterwards.
yeah. So back to the pre-fishing deal. We went up to the headwaters of the lake, and first fish I caught was a 17 and a quarter, and I was trying to log it on the monthly. And as soon as I went to take the picture, I don't have a tether on my cell phone. I felt the fish like flex up on the board, and it shot off one side of the board, and I chucked the phone off the other trying to catch the fish. So, so I spent 4 hours at Verizon in Winchester trying to get a cell phone on my pre-fishing day, and I caught probably close to 130 inches
For the month
on my pre-fishing day, and I couldn't load them.
Dang.
That sucks.
Uh,
Well, it didn't matter anyway. You destroyed everybody in that. I think you had, for the month, and you only fished like 5 or 6 days or whatever.
yeah, 6 days, 638 inches.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
Yeah,
what
it
I've
was-
caught this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you want to feel bad, fish against him in a monthly.
No kidding.
but we went back to the same place Saturday or Friday morning, and actually got out of the kayaks, and drug them up the rapids. Well, I didn't. I raised my XI3 up and drove up the shoals. My buddy Bill was like, "You're crazy," but I did it. And like 4 or 5 casts in, caught a 21 and a half. And those fish, we didn't catch anything like that up there the day before. And it was just fish after fish after fish. And I actually throwed a different color on pre-fishing day, and it was cloudy. So I went to my cloudy color, which is bubble gum, and man, it was on.
I'm so excited when I hear someone talk about using bubble gum still. That freaking color.
And
is
you were
just
still
so
you were
good.
still fishing a fluke? You're talking about Tim's fluke?
I fished a fluke all weekend, all day long, sun out, all day.
I'm telling you, he earned that name this weekend for a reason.
But like you have to really, like Jimmy, how Gunnersville like sets up sometimes in the creeks when you have current, and there was current up there. They were releasing water out of woods, and a lot of times at Gunnersville, it will actually stage those largemouth up on the bank.
Oh, yeah.
And there was still enough water. They hadn't drawn enough of the lake down yet. There was an overhang, just like Gunnersville. And if you didn't hit the bank with a fluke, you wouldn't catch the fish.
Matt, like I had a guy prove that to me. Will McInnes. Will showed me that you and him went fishing, and I was throwing a fluke like 3-4 foot shy of like in the freaking woods, and he was throwing past me, skipping his fluke past me, and he was pulling 5-pounders out of what looked like the dirt, and I was wow. And like that's what opened my eyes up to that. But that's a great explanation on that. Anybody listening to this that fishes Gunnersville or now maybe going to check this lake out, like that is the truth. It's a certain way it sets up, but you can't throw it too shallow.
No, you can't. I was skipping it up into the roots on the bank, and as soon as I pulled it out of the roots, it was like whales rolling on the bank. It was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
It definitely hurt me the second day. I had a lot of spectators that wanted to come up there and see what I was doing, and some of them tried it, and they just couldn't get it to the bank. And of course, I'm 6'2", 280 pounds, and I stood up in the Hobie for 10 hours both days skipping that fluke, and they just couldn't get it up there. And
one of our guys, Bill, was with him during the event and was trying to describe like how you were doing this, and he was like, "Man, it's like watching an expert in his craft." He said you were like backhanding, skipping up under the overhangs. Like all these crazy angles up under the overhangs, and
I feel like it's like watching a crappie guy shoot docks, but this dude's skipping flukes. Like,
yeah,
I've seen some guys do it, man, and again, Will's one of them. Will is dangerous and deadly with a fluke, and I've watched him just like you're talking about. Like he'll cast in areas that I would never imagine trying to throw, like a worm with no hook, let alone a hook and a bait, and that's where he finds them, man. And it was eye opening. Lets me know that I suck and need to get better. And this is just another story to fulfill that. Well, since you're already on it, so kind of give me a little more in-depth rundown of your actual tournament days. Memorable moments, long lull period between fish, anything. Just kind of break down your actual tournament days a little bit more.
It never really stopped. It stopped when I did because I was tired of catching fish. When you catch 4 17.25-inch fish within 50 yards of each other, especially on Tim's Ford, I just went and sat in the shade a couple times because I told Bill, I was like, I'm wore out. I need a break and sit down and eat a Twinkie and drink some water and let everybody that was up there go up there and fish and come back out and let everything calm down, and then right back up the bank I would go. I fished the same 2 banks that were probably 3/4 of a mile or a mile long on each side. And the second day, they stopped releasing as much water, and there wasn't enough water on the bank to keep the fish up there like they wanted to be Friday. and that really hurt me. But Friday, I did lose two giants. I mean, giants, probably 20s or better in the bushes. I mean, they'd hit, go up under a log or a lay down, and come up the other side and shake off. I mean, there's nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
It was awesome, but
risk you run doing that technique is sometimes
Yeah.
you're going to get wrapped up in all that stuff, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. But it's still, I mean, overall, to be able to do that, the same stretch, make it last, and to do it with all that company. Like, you haven't said like how many people, but it's hard to do that with one other person around that's trying to emulate what you're doing. So having like a whole flock of people out there trying to do it, and then being able to like consciously in your head be like, it's fine, let it rest a little bit, let them do their thing, and then I'll go back in and wear them out anyway. Like that's pretty impressive and very very good mental control of that, because like if I'm fishing on something and it's good and somebody pushes in on me, I don't care if you're my best friend, you're gonna stress me out. Like I may not get mad at you, but I'm gonna be like, oh God, they're gone. They're
get out of the way.
Yeah. Like you just sit back, like you said, drink some water, have a Twinkie, go back at it, man. Like it's impressive, dude. I couldn't do it.
I guess I wanted to mention this. We kind of glazed over it, but the format for this event is a little different than most other events. So for this one, it's essentially you got 18 hours to catch your best 5 fish, and it's 11 to 7 on Friday and 6 to 4 on Saturday. So it's a wide window you got there. But it really gives people an opportunity to like kind of chase big fish a whole day if they have to.
Yeah, you spend the day getting your limit and then spend the day
trying to upgrade.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But both of these guys, I mean, they pretty much went wire to wire first and second. Day 1 and 2. They both found upgrades on day 2, but it didn't change their standing. There was a lot of good limits, though.
Yeah,
there was.
Yeah, there was. I was surprised, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was.
I mean, top 7, 90 inches. We'll call it at 85. Down to 85 and a half in 15th place. Still a bunch of and like tons of good fish caught just about all the way down the pack. So
yeah, that's what impressed me the most was like if you look at people's actual limits or like the biggest fish in their limit, there were so many 17 to 20 inch fish caught, like that would rival probably in any lake in Tennessee in terms of like average size.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that were just had one good fish and were one good fish away from completely mixing up the leaderboard. But lots of solid limits. But so we heard about how the Fluke Fairy did it. I applaud you for driving up shoals in a Hobie with a bow mount, because that's what I tell everybody is like the thing that I would worry about putting a bow mount on your boat. So don't listen to me. This guy's got it dialed in.
Yeah, he's figured it out.
Yeah, I'd like to have
put
seen it
like a sheet of plywood over your drive hole or something, right?
That was on my old boat because the hull cracked on me and I didn't want to fall through.
That's awesome. Jesus. But Luke, tell us about your tournament days and kind of how you sat down on this pretty awesome 97-inch limit that you ended up with.
Yeah, so day 1, like I said, I put it in at that other ramp that I hadn't been to. I knew a place that I wanted to start though, so I started on a specific dock-ish area. I didn't get anything off that dock, which they had some like sunken Christmas trees and stuff like that in between these two, and so I thought I might get something out of there, and I didn't. So from there, I moved down a bit. I caught my first fish, which was like a 19-inch smallmouth. That's the one I was talking about, that I thought I was at a smallmouth range right there. And it was a big one, like right off the bat. And I was like, whoa. So I was like, maybe I can fish some of this more shallow, like kind of pushed in the backwater and still be able to catch smallmouth. But so I continued on from there.
God dadgummit.
I
There we go.
dumped pretty early in the day. I jumped off a giant, like probably by far the biggest largemouth I've ever hooked anywhere, period. And the reason was I got like a bad hook set on it because it was kind of like underneath me and to the right, and so I got a bad hook set on it, and then I assumed it was a drum, basically, because like anytime you catch a fish that feels like that out here, it's a drum. Like when you can, you know how they kind of turn on their side and their tail slaps the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is definitely a drum. So I was kind of like horsing it up to the surface. And then all of a sudden, as it got closer, it just came like straight up and jumped and spit my bait. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that was like, I said, being conservative, it was 22, but I seriously think it was 23 plus. Like it was a freak fish.
Did that make you feel any better at the dinner that night or the Saturday night, seeing that 10-pounder on the wall there? That could have been potentially that fish.
No, I did not see that.
Oh, it was
No.
like in
Are
the
you talking
back
about the dinner
room.
Saturday night?
Yeah, at the bass club, there was
Or Friday night, I mean.
there was a trophy fish on the back of the wall there that was a 10-pound, 10-ounce fish that was caught in 99 in January.
Yeah, I didn't go in there. No, I doubt it was that, but I mean, it was, and like, honestly, I didn't think that kind of quality was in there. I mean, obviously there are those kinds of fish, those caliber fish in every lake, but you don't normally see them, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so I was a little, I was admittedly like rattled after that because I was like, man, you're not going to get that shot again. You know what I mean? So I like catfish, and I caught one of the only small fish that I caught that week, and then went on my way. And then at some point, I think around like maybe one or two, so a couple hours in, I just found a spot where I sat for an hour and a half and caught 10 to 12 fish. They were just there. And that's the thing about this time of year. Like, yes, you can find solo fish feeding and stuff like that, but those are hard to catch. It's like you almost have to find them in a group and for multiple of them to be willing to go. And like like I said, I caught 10 to 12 in like an hour and a half, and nothing was under 17. I caught 2 18.25. I caught a 21.75. So I actually did get another shot at a big one. So yeah, I pulled up, and with it, like you said, Garrett, the format's different, right? So if it was a 5 fish both days, I would have like sealed up my limit of 17, 18 plus fish, and I would have left for sure.
But this, you can kind of afford to burn it down.
Oh yeah, I torched the place, like just wrecked it. Like I was fishing a jig, and I caught a bunch on a jig, and then once it kind of stopped for a second, I changed baits and like caught some more until they just literally wouldn't eat anymore. So so that kind of set up day one. I really thought maybe we'd have a shot at like numbers or like good fish in that last hour, because a lot of times you get that hour almost of nighttime, so you get good like dusk feeding. And I did get like an 18 on top water, but that didn't end up helping. So
that's crazy.
That was the only fish that I had on a moving bait the entire 2 days. So that's it. Everything.
So was everything else you said on a jig?
Yeah, on a jig, and I caught some on a worm too. I mean, honestly though, if you talk to me after any tournament, I catch the majority of my fish on a jig. So like 85+% probably the fish I catch.
I'm telling you, once you figure a jig out, it's hard to put it down. Like, G-Man, talks about, everybody knows, Gerald Swindle, you've heard him talk on the jig. Yeah. And it's deadly anywhere, everywhere, all day, any season. It doesn't matter. Like once you get confident, you don't have to get good at it. You just have to be confident with it, and it's going to catch something. Like,
yeah. And I feel like that's one of those there's always a bite for it too, to an extent. Maybe not as good as other things for sure. But yeah, that's kind of my preferred deal. So then day two, I went out after, I think I had like 95.25 or something after day one. So, I mean, honestly, if Tyler didn't have 90, what did you have? 92 something after day one?
3. No, yeah, 90 92 something day one.
Yeah.
I think you were
Honestly,
only like
if you hadn't had
2.5 inches
92,
or
I
something
probably
like
would have.
that.
What'd you say?
He was only like 2.5 inches or so.
Yeah, so I would have had like no stress going into day two if he hadn't like broken 90. I don't know. That was just shocking to me that it was fishing that good. But yeah, so like going into day two, I was like, I probably need to upgrade. Maybe not, but I probably do. So I went out and went more main lake and ended up fishing deep bluffs, which is what I had planned to do from the beginning. Fishing for smallmouth. So my day two was basically all smallmouth, except for a really deep largemouth that I caught. But yeah, I made a couple upgrades. You know, I upgraded like 2.25 inches. Didn't really change what I was throwing, just different area, deeper water, smallmouth. So
nice, man. That's pretty cool. So 2 completely different approaches to this, and 2 very
Complete opposite ends of the lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
opposite
like,
ends of the lake, and roughly the
north to
same
south, for sure.
like spectrum. You both like good 90-inch plus finishes, good fish. Like that's telltale signs that lake's just fishing really good. Very, I mean that
if you
like
ask
we said before.
them, yeah.
Well, no, I mean looking back at the results again. There were so many good fish caught, so many good limits. Like that.
Yeah,
that place
there
was
was
just on fire.
I think it's one of those things where it's a time of year thing. It's also like there's good fish. Like I said, their average fish size to me is really good, especially compared to lakes around here. But I don't think they're everywhere. You know what I mean? Because I covered like day two, I covered a ton of dead water. Like I'd turn up a channel and go in a bunch of different pockets, like just really fast. I covered so much dead water.
It's definitely, I mean, one of the directors, the host club mentioned it. It's definitely a feast or famine type of lake, where like you're saying, like there's tons of dead water, but if you find them, you're gonna end up in a pile of good fish.
Luke, for you, was there, without like giving up your area, was there anything that you put together that was like something they were relating to a certain type of area that you were able to, like, once you found like this active feeding pod of fish, you could find that somewhere else and do it again? Or was it kind of just falling on top of a group of them?
I didn't figure anything out to find numbers. Like there wasn't anything to me that was dictating numbers. I did kind of realize I got bit like 2 or 3 of the initial fish that I caught were off of like a certain sort of style of rock, like rock backdrop. And so I think there was something to that, but beyond that, no. I mean, I saw fish in a lot of different areas. I mean, obviously they're all like year round, they're going to be on bluffs, so I don't really even factor that in. But I mean, like I said, there was a group of largemouth on day 2 that was in the middle of a cove on the bottom in the middle. So like if you have the sides of the cove, right, and then you have the very center of it in 32 feet, they were on the bottom. Just a group of largemouth.
Jesus.
So, I don't know. I did not really figure anything out in terms of like what specifically was holding them.
Yeah.
And then like I was talking to a guy on the way back from my spot, and I had caught I think I caught 1 12-incher that whole day, and he caught like 90 something inches from the same ramp that I did, and I was like, oh, that really makes me feel good. But
yeah,
we say it all the time, man. It's finding a spot inside the spot.
But his pattern, so to speak, was throwing a popper up behind the docks and up on the walkways of the docks and stuff, and catching. I did notice there was like tons of bluegill up shallow, and they would hit anything that like would pop the surface. Like if you dropped a spider or something on the surface, there'd be like a swarm of bluegills, like piranha almost. And he was, I guess, replicating that with a little popper and getting big largemouth, and he caught some smallmouth doing that too throughout the day. And it's like, dude, there's no pattern on this lake right now. It's just
and it's like
spots.
There's so many docks, and they're all floating docks because their drawdown's so severe.
Yeah.
So like every dock has cables. Every dock has basically a plastic bottom on it. You know what I mean? So there's not even like variation really to to sort of like
Except maybe
help.
some of them might stick off of a point instead of being
Right,
off of the
right.
like off of the side of a channel or something like that. But other than that, no, there's not really any variation on the docks.
Was there, Tyler, for you, was there anything that, like, obviously we've talked about if you're targeting like way up shallow, was there anything like specifically that was standing out to you, like certain type of clump of tree roots, or they were like relating to rock way up shallow, anything like that? Or
No, I mean both sides of that creek I was in. I mean, you would have like a 50-yard stretch of nice clay overhang that was full of water with roots and laydowns mixed in it, and then you'd have a 25-yard stretch of rock with a little bit of overhang, and they were, I mean, as long as they could get out of the sunshine under the overhang, they were there.
and was it almost like instantaneous bite, or were you having to like kind
Oh, it
of
was one or
the
two
bait out?
twitches and it was disappeared.
That's awesome. That's what I'm talking
And
about.
sometimes it wouldn't. I mean, it would hit the bank and the water would just explode.
See, that's the kind of stuff I live for. I need that adrenaline rush in my life again.
It didn't. I mean, I did not expect to do that at Thames Ford. I would guarantee you that.
That's awesome.
It was like being in Gunnersville for 2 days.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear two totally different styles almost of fishing that both got it done on the same body of water.
Yeah. And like this is pretty extreme differences. Like you hear about guys like, oh, I was throwing a swim jig, now I was throwing a chatterbait. Like, okay, moving baits, we get it. But like one guy's throwing a jig and one guy's, twitching a fluke. Like two, like I said again, opposite ends of the lake, opposite types of water. Like it's really cool that worked out and gave you both these great finishes. Good end to your year, You always like ending the season out on top, and y'all have definitely done that. So that being said, how's next year looking? You guys already pumped up for next year, or anything
I'm ready
changing?
to go.
Yeah, I bet.
Any of y'all
I just bought another lithium battery.
got to spend those winnings, man.
That's right.
Burn them.
Either one of y'all gonna dabble with national stuff, or are you gonna kind of stick to doing the tournament trails or the local trails? Or are you gonna do both? Or
I'm gonna stick to doing our club tournaments. I'll probably fish a few more Bass Nations next year. I'm hoping to get a roll down spot to go to the Bassmaster. Hopefully, I was like one spot out of that.
I'm sure you'll get the opportunity.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, for me, I'll be doing local stuff next year. I'll be fishing as many of the Tennessee Bass Nations as I can. There's going to be quite a bit of overlap just because they've got, I think they're putting like 10 events on the schedule like next year, which is a lot. But
I think, what did they do this year? Like 5 or 6?
Seven, I think. Yeah, it was a good number too. Yeah. So I'll definitely fish those next year where I can. I would like to fish. I'm waiting to see the schedules for like Hobie and Bassmaster to see, what, first of all, if there's anything here in the area, but then two, if, there's anything that's like reasonable, So
yeah,
I've got two small kids. I've got a 3-year-old and like a 10-month-old. So it's a little bit challenging when you're talking about 2-day events and, traveling for, how many ever nights you're going for that. So we'll see. Sure. It just kind of depends what's on there. I definitely would have liked to fish the kayak classic though, Tyler, on 10 Killer. I think that's going to be cool. So,
oh yeah. Did you qualify for that? You qualified for that, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I fished that.
I thought
I fished that state tournament, but I had never been to Gunnersville, and it was not good. Yeah. So.
I know how you feel.
Gunnersville's been a greedy little bitch lately. Like, and I would honestly, I think it's just like pressure. But it used to be the lake you could go to and just have a fun day and not worry about it. But it has been kicking most people's teeth in lately.
It showed out pretty good during that tournament, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it
I
did.
think it
I mean,
was
it's
like
still like people are still catching a ton of good fish there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it
and I
up, but
don't
I
fish
think it was like 160 inches. Barely got you like not even top 10 or not
Yeah.
even top 20 or something like that.
yeah, and I don't fish many grass lakes, and even if I do, if they offer that, like I don't fish there. So Gunnersville was a little bit. I was pretty shocked by the amount of eelgrass.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's
and
bad this year,
it
dude.
it's bad, bad.
yeah, it was
Like
pretty
that,
wild. So
it'll take your trailer right off your truck, man. Like it is so. I've been seeing guys posting pictures in the groups, like pulling these, giant boat trailers out with 200-300 pounds of eelgrass. Just looks like a duck blind when they come out
yeah.
versus a boat trailer. But
Yeah, I was talking to a local. He said people were selling their houses because they can't even get their boats out of their slips. Like
yeah,
their boats are permanently on the dock, like unusable because they can't get them out because of the grass. So they've definitely. I mean, it's like the fishing is good, but it's kind of a problem. But yeah,
well,
so no, I
it goes from it being everybody complaining because they spray so much, so
right,
then they
yeah,
don't spray,
exactly.
and this happens, and it's like,
Like,
all
can we
right, this
get
is why
more
we spray,
grass?
guys. Like,
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
15 years ago, eelgrass wasn't even a thing.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, between the eelgrass and I think the coal plant on the north end really hurt the north end of the lake.
yeah,
I mean, that's where I grew up fishing was from like Town Creek up to the dam at Nickajack, and man, back in 2005 to 2009, uh, if you didn't go down there and catch 6 or 7 fish over 5 pounds in a day, it was horrible. Uh, it was just insane up there. Uh, I've got several fish mounted in here on the wall that come from Gunnersville that are over 8 pounds. Uh, it was an excellent fishery until then, until 2010, 2011, and the upper end kind of started to decline.
yeah.
Wow.
That sucks.
But yeah, no, just really local events, Tennessee Bass Nation, and we'll see about the national stuff because I just don't right now. I just don't have the time to go do that as much as I'd like to.
I understand. Yeah, it's
Sure.
he's a
So
new
all
parent.
of us are in the dad club now. So.
He's a new parent.
Yeah.
I'm
All right.
re-parenting up with a new baby, so I'll be
Is this number 2?
doing the podcast. Yeah, number 2 for me, and they're 12 years apart, so
Wow.
I am not even fresh in the kid game anymore. So it's gonna be like starting over for me. I'm excited though. Like
2-month-old as of yesterday.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I'll probably be like over it within the first like week and be like, oh my god, I have no time to do anything now. But
That's
whatever.
cool. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Well, we appreciate y'all coming on. And before we let y'all get out of here, this is usually when we let y'all, thank any sponsors you have, family, wives, anybody that, makes this doable, easier for you, helps you along the way. I have no clue what just fell over there. But yeah, so Tyler, if you want to take it away, just tell us who helps you or thank anybody you want to.
Yeah, I think my wife, she puts up with my 3 to 5 days of fishing a week with 2 small kids sometimes, and I own my own bait shop, so Cedar Creek Tackle. I make my own stuff, build rods, uh, all that fun stuff.
You got a special fluke skipping rod that you built, don't you? Or
I do, yeah.
that?
It's actually a bait caster blank that I cut down.
I was going to ask you what you were throwing flukes on.
It is a 7.6 CRB blank, medium heavy that I cut down to 7.3, 7.4. It's actually about an inch too long to stand in a kayak. It's great for bass boat fishing, but I plan to build another one and make it a little bit shorter. But it's stiff enough, but it's got enough parabolic bend to it that you can, flip it up under the bank.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's all technique. I mean, you stand next to somebody in a bass boat for so long, you'll learn how to backhand and skip pretty quick.
They say that I still can't do it, so that's a lot. Oh, anybody else that makes it easy for you?
That's about it. I love my kids. They root me on. My daughter was there during check-in. She was excited to see me. My little boy was with my dad hanging trail cameras, so he didn't get to come and see.
He ain't worried about that right now. He's worried about
Oh,
shooting.
he is. I just bought him a new canoe to fish out of.
Awesome.
So
That's cool.
and he's 8.
That's awesome.
He's gonna be stealing my money probably by next year.
Yeah, he's hammered.
Where it's like I
He's
have
8
about
years old.
3 years until.
Yeah, he's got 2 bait casters and 2 spinning rods, and people in Bass both will stop and watch him fish. I mean,
Wow.
he's good. He's good.
I love
Dang
it. I
it.
can't wait till he beats Garrett in a tournament just so I can enjoy this moment. I'll cut this clip and be playing it over and over and over. Be like, you said it yourself, sir. What about you, Luke? Anybody?
Yeah, my wife. I appreciate her taking care of the kids and my in-laws helping out while I was down there. But no, man, other than that, really just family stuff like that, and the local guys. It's always fun to travel with them. So the Tin Cat group. There's some good anglers in there, and they're a fun bunch. So appreciate them.
It's awesome, guys.
I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of this whole event in general. Is just bringing your whole team down and getting to hang out with your team for the weekend. And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the team trips are definitely fun. Definitely fun. Even if the fishing's like last year's Kentucky Lake, and that sucked, and it was still fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as
I
the
had a little
company's
too
good.
much fun Saturday night afterwards, but
that sounds like you for sure. Well, guys, we appreciate y'all coming on. We don't want to keep you all night. Awesome stories, and congrats again on doing so well. And good luck next year, and we hope to have you back on the show again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice
yeah,
meeting you.
good time.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.
See you.
See y'all.
See ya.
All right. Sounds awesome. It's really cool to hear the 2 totally different things. Because, I mean, like I said, we've covered hundreds of tournaments at this point, and you hear there's always a couple of ways to do it. But
Yeah,
that is 2 very, very opposite ends, like very, very opposite ends. Like I can't even put into words how different that is. Like,
no, I think a lot of that too can lend to it being like kind of the fall transition right now. So you're gonna have a lot of fish doing a lot of different things right now.
Yeah. A lot of active fish, a lot of
not active fish too.
Yeah.
Garrett
found all those.
Yeah, I found all them. I know exactly where I could drop a pin on them for you. Because my pre-fishing day, I didn't have my batteries charged or anything, so I just went out with a glide bait. Because I had no graph or anything, and I just wanted to see what I could pull up to see what I could see visually. And throwing a glide bait around laydowns off the main lake, I pulled up some massive largemouth. Like, they never hit it. Well, I actually had 3 hit it. Didn't hook them, but just had them come up and smack it. I had a couple. I had 2 particularly. I remember watching stalk my bait that was like 21 to 22 inch largemouth, just like coming up behind it like that, looking at it like maybe I'll take a bite off of that, but no, they never committed to it. And then those laydowns during tournament day, I probably fished religiously until I was like, it's just not going to happen.
They're not here.
They're not. They may be there and just laughing at me.
They're literally just sitting down there looking up at you like this. Like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, man, good show. It was good to record another one local. And yeah, we'll tune in next week. We'll be covering the Susquehanna Bassmaster event, I'm sure, because I'd love to hear about that event. And I'm kind of curious to know how that event's going to fish this time of year. Because I know when I was still considering going, I was kind of curious to how it would be up there, because like I know how to approach like a really good moving water area when it's warmer, but they're going to be cooling off faster than we are. So, like, what does that do for those waters? So I'm really excited to see like the numbers for this event, and like if it's just a couple of people catching them, or if it's like a really good
I think,
bite.
in all honesty, it'll be better. And I think,
Really,
yeah, I think, I mean, I like fishing rivers and stuff more so in the winter than I do in the hot times of year.
I don't do it, and that could be why I don't have anything to say on that. Like, I mean, obviously, like I just when it
It's
gets cold, I like to go fish slow and deep.
there's
I don't.
definitely something you're missing there, man.
Yeah, I need to do it.
The winter time and like colder water river time, I guess, is there's some special stuff there.
I'm gonna have to check it out this winter because, well, I say that I'm gonna have a baby, so
Essentially,
I'm probably
like
not fishing much.
the fall transition happens a lot faster, and it's like they're basically full blown fall patterns right now
Yeah,
in the farthest parts of the river. Partially, also could have been why Tyler did what he did at this event, because he was basically in the headwaters, like he said, um, where the water temps were significantly cooler than like the main lake temps. So they're like way further along in the fall transition period in those sections.
Gotta check it out.
Yeah.
Well, been another great show. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and don't have any tournament recaps for you this week. Wife took a break, and I forgot to do it myself. So,
Oh man, 2 weeks in a row without that, we're gonna get
I'm gonna have to start doing them again.
canceled here.
Hey, cancel culture can eat me. Okay,
Yeah.
cancel me, send me on vacation. I don't care. But so once again, we appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out with the Paddle and Fin Club and listening to me and Garrett ramble on about tournaments that we both suck at there, and then
Yeah, it was a little painful to sit through this one, knowing how bad I did and how
that's how I feel when we
terrible.
cover national events that I competed in. I'm like, oh yeah, you caught 110 inches, F you, okay? Like,
How many? I mean, we've covered probably 10 events this year that I've fished in and done. I've fished terrible all season. I mean, I've done well in like a handful of events, but
it's time to retire and take up content creation.
I guess so.
I'm
Or
quit
just
my job and
reevaluate my bigger tournament strategies, I guess.
I'm just going to quit my job and do content full time.
Hey, there you go. There's one way to do it.
Check out my Only Fish page.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're
Fish
getting out of
tips.
here, folks.
That's what
It will
is.
get.
Tip.
We're getting out of here, folks. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
See ya.